Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. The next gentleman I'm going to bring on, he has an incredible story to share, and it's so impactful, both in the dentistry world and outside of it. Dr. Eric Recker is a dentist, husband, father, keynote speaker, elite success coach, author, pilot, mountain climber, and recovering triathlete. In his second half of life, he is committed to helping people shorten the distance to becoming their best version and learning to hashtag win the now. Well, I'm glad we found time to actually get you here, man. You are busy as can be. Eric, what's happening, man? How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here, JM. Well, it's not hard to see that I fell into the trap of burnout with the 8 million things that I seem to have going on in my life.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it. But even if, it's funny, when whether you're being a pilot or at a keynote and an author and a mountain climber, all that stuff, burnout can happen to any of us. Tell me a little bit more about that, because clearly you're a driven guy.
Yep.
Clearly you've been successful. But that doesn't mean you can, you're immune to burnout. And I think so many people, even listening to this show, either feeling that now or perhaps have at some point.
So part of it started for me. I had some words that were spoken over me when I was younger. So the recess kickball fields in southeast Iowa, where I grew up, kickball was life. Man, I'm telling you, playing kickball at recess, that was the stuff. That's what everybody wanted to do. And when I was in second and third grade, I was told that I wasn't good enough to play. It would have been one thing if I was picked last, but I was told repeatedly, no, man, you're not good enough. And all I wanted to do was play and show people that I was going to be good enough. So I remember standing on the side of that recess kickball field, and I made a pact with myself as a third grader. I said, I'm going to be so good at everything that I ever do that no one is ever not going to pick me. And so I only realized that really within about the last 4 to 5 years that I was working on this broken operating system, this broken soundtrack that had been spoken over me. You are not good enough. And so nothing ever was good enough. And that's why I always felt like I needed to add things and add things and add things. I started running. That ended up being marathons. I started doing triathlon. That ended up being Ironman distance. I started climbing mountains. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, all this different kind of stuff. And I finally realized that, man, I'm chasing all this stuff and I'm hiking all these mountains. I'm doing all these races, and finally hit me at the top of Mount Princeton near Leadville, Colorado several years ago. If you don't know why you're climbing the mountain, you are not going to find the answer at the top. And that was the problem for me. I was doing all this stuff thinking I was going to find the answer at the end of it, and I never did. And I think that's the way that a lot of us are living our lives.
Yeah, man, it is interesting. I don't know your exact age, but it's, we hit these points later in life where you're going back to second and third grade and saying, this is literally programmed and conditioned me to operate a certain way, which has led to many, many successes. I guess that's the flip side of the coin. It's like, hey, congrats. You kicked some serious ass out there, but what are we doing it for? Am I really being fulfilled? Awesome that you're climbing this mountain, but why, right? So have you figured out that why, Eric? And you're sitting on Mount Princeton saying, okay, this is why I'm so driven to do these things, but it's really not filling my bucket. Has that really arrived for you? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So throughout all of this, I was on a journey to figure out, what I had thought before I realized this, that everybody just works this hard and pushes this hard and does all of this stuff. That's just life. It's normal to be that crazy busy in your life constantly and not have any margin. Yeah, it didn't take too long to start having some conversations that I realized that I was a little bit of an outlier, that I pushed myself that hard. So I had to go to work and figure out what my why was. And I don't mourn anything that's happened to me. I understand that it's all part of my journey. Some people feel terrible about the things that happened to them in the past, and some people have had really ugly things. So I get that, but I don't mourn any part of the journey, the bullying, any of that kind of stuff, because it led me to where I am right now. And so I have this story and this journey, and I have two choices. I can either keep that all to myself And I know that if I do that, then I'm going to be on my deathbed one day and I'm going to regret the heck out of that. It's going to feel like a wasted story. But since I've learned all these lessons, I've been through all this, I've been to really dark places in burnout. Now I can share this journey with other people and help people on their journey. So maybe they don't have to go quite as far down the road as I had to.
Was there a moment, so other than being on top of the mountain, what did burnout feel like to you? And I know that sounds like an odd question, but I want to really pinpoint this because, or approaching burnout, maybe I should say. I'm not saying that you hit it, but maybe you captured the moment where you're like, uh-oh, we're going down a bad path, man. We are driving 60 and there's the tree and we are not stopping. I mean, that's kind of, was there a feeling of being out of control? Was there a feeling of just, man, I am just tired? What was that like for you? Because this is where I want to pinpoint for people listening to say, recognize some of these signs so that you don't hit that rock bottom, if you will. What did that look like for you?
So I'm going to share two stories with that. The first one is going to be kind of the analogy that I use for burnout. So my family has a favorite movie. It's called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, if you've seen it, but it's Ben Stiller is the main character in there, and he works for Life magazine. And the cinematography in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So in the beginning, everything is gray. His life is boring. They show his checkbook. It's got like 8 entries in it. And there's just nothing going on in his life. He's trying to get on this dating site because there's a person that he works with and it's not working out. But everything is gray. And so he daydreams a lot. He dreams of the life he wants, but the life he has is gray. Nothing's exciting. Everything is dull. And for me, that's the perfect picture of burnout. Now, he was not burned out because he hadn't really done anything to get himself burned out. But what the gray colors in that movie remind me that nothing got me excited. I'd cross the finish line of a race. Okay, what's next? I didn't get excited about going on vacation. I didn't get excited about taking care of my patients. I was just kind of on this flat line. I'd get pretty low, but really nothing would get me high. I was reactive to my family a lot. I was really chippy. I was snappy. People would say things to me and I would just snap back at them. I procrastinated the heck out of everything because I had no positive energy to put towards tasks, all of those kind of things. But I mostly felt like my life was gray. So that's one analogy. The other one is one of the ground zero moments for me. So as burnout started to take its hold more on me, I was experiencing a fair amount of chest pain and heart palpitations. Don't think that's very uncommon for high achievers who are in kind of high stress jobs. But there was a morning where I was the only dentist in our practice. Normally there's 3 of us there. We have 5 or 6 hygienists. It's a pretty busy practice. And so it was 9:30 in the morning and my front desk team came back and told me, hey, the server just crashed. And oh, by the way, I'm the IT person for our practice as well. So the server had crashed. I was already 30 minutes behind because it was a Monday morning and we had extra emergencies. I was the only doc there and I had 5 hygienists that were waiting for me to check their patients. So I went down to the server room that was in the basement of our office and I was literally brought to the ground. And I full on panic attack. So I had a choice in that moment. I was paralyzed. I was weeping. I was shot. And the last thing I wanted to do is get up and face what was going on. But a song popped into my head, a song by Switchfoot called I Dare You to Move. And one of the lines in that song was, I dare you to pick yourself up off the ground. And so I had to physically force myself to get up, get the server back up and running, get back up, get my patients. It was only 9:30. I had 3.5 hours yet till lunch. But that was what it looked like when it had really taken hold. So my hope is that people, when they find themselves starting to get reactive towards their people, when they find themselves not finding any joy, not really wanting to do a lot of things, withdrawing, turning to alcohol or whatever your thing is. Those are the warning signs. We don't want you to get to that point of panic attacks because those things are ugly.
Yeah, it's a big part of why I work within the dental industry is it's the number one suicide occupation in the country. I don't like to say that, it's just true. And the reason I'm passionate about that, you and I haven't talked about this, but that's how I lost my dad just over 2 years ago. And my point in saying that is, look, when things get really dark or panic attack ensues, or these are some signs that I don't want to get people to. And I think it sounds like, Eric, this has become your passion to say, look, I've been there too. I know you wrote an amazing book, and I'd love to hear how you chose that and what that driving purpose was behind it. But it's one of those things, what I'm passionate about is fantastic. I can double the revenue of your practice. That's cool. But I'm really more focused on the mental health of things. And why is it, I guess is my question, because I'm still trying to seek this answer. Why do you think this industry has this unfortunate, I don't know what you call it, it's received this recognition in the worst possible way? Why is that, brother? What can we do to hopefully change it? Because you guys are brilliant, smart, amazing human beings, yet it still has this award of the most suicide, occupation in the country. What can we do, brother? Because that is one of my whys in life today.
Yeah, I love that topic. I think dentistry can lend itself to dentists being an island. We can become these little islands. So what I mean by that is we're so focused on our practice, and most of us went to school to do dentistry. That's why we went to school. But oh, by the way, you are probably in HR now. You're definitely in psychology. You're definitely in finance. You're definitely in accounting. You're doing hiring and firing. You're doing all of these other things. And we get really pulled away from the thing that we really went to school for. And that was to restore function and create beauty and do all of those things that we want to do. And then dentists seem to have kind of this weird competitive thing amongst them, that we kind of want to hold everything close to the chest. We want to kind of keep our trade secrets to ourselves, and we don't really want to share it with anybody else unless they're at least 6,000 miles away from us so that they can't compete with us, right? So I'll share this with somebody in Alaska, but I kind of want him to sign something that says he's not ever going to come anywhere near me and do it. And then we naturally put ourselves on an island. We don't ask for help. We think we have to be, and this is one of the biggest things that almost took me out from dentistry. We think we have to be everything to everyone. And it's brutal. We think we have to have every answer for every scenario that our team comes in with, that our patients come in with. Anything that happens in the practice, we have to instantly have the answer to solve that. We don't. We just can't. And so we put that pressure on ourselves. And when I finally realized that I didn't have to be everything to everyone, I started empowering my team to help me come up with solutions instead of just come and bring the problem to me. Because what would happen is the problem would come to me, my shoulders would sag under the load, theirs would pop up because they didn't have the load anymore, and I still had 8 million other things to do. And now we try to do things collaboratively. So, hey, you have a problem? Awesome, bring it to me. I want to know about it. But I also want one solution. It doesn't have to be amazing. It doesn't have to be the one that solves it, but bring a solution and be willing to work with me to figure out how we're going to solve that. And it's better for our teams. It's better for us. We don't feel alone. And man, for the love, we have to be in a relationship with people. We just do. We have to be in a relationship with people who can help us on the journey. So that's a long answer, but I think a lot of that stuff really plays into how things get dark for us.
Yeah, the letting go of control is clearly something that I've found to be a common theme, right? And again, I think it comes with that idea that if I do it, I know it's going to get done well. It's also the absolute enemy to growth, right? And so I'm curious, Eric, as you have said, you know what? I'm going to take some of this off. I'm going to empower my people without knowing your practice at all. When you did that, did the practice grow?
Absolutely. The practice absolutely grew. One thing that I definitely learned about myself is that I am at my worst when I am micromanaging. Because when I'm micromanaging, we have a culture of fear. Everybody's afraid to screw up because I'm going to correct them, right? That's a scary place to work. But I also have to be okay with the fact that my team are going to make some mistakes sometimes. Hopefully, it's going to be on small things. If they, take an example, maybe the treatment plan was off a little bit and they didn't include one small thing in there. You know what? I'm willing to eat that compared to them not willing to take any risks because they're terrified that I'm going to come down on them because of something they did. And I had one of my front desk team call me out, said, you know what? It is not good when you have your finger on every single thing that's happening in here. It's just not good. Let us do our thing. And then I was really honest with them about where I was at with burnout. And both of my front desk team came up to me and said, hey, what can we do? What can we take off your plate? And I still get emotional thinking about that because I think we have teams of people that respect us. They'd go somewhere else if they didn't respect us. And if they respect us, I genuinely believe that they want to help us. So those things that we're micromanaging and we're watching and we think we're saving money because we do a couple of these little things, we're actually making our people not feel empowered. And when they're not empowered, they're not performing at their best.
Yeah, brother, you literally summarized what in a snippet how practices literally start to shrink or don't grow, certainly. And that's that micromanagement piece. And that's the fact if you're not empowering your people. Here's the deal. And I have to restate it because I want people to hear this loud and clear. Micromanagement will absolutely reduce growth. It will stunt your growth. You will lose people because people want to be challenged. Here's the rub. They're going to probably do a better job of it than you will anyway. Anybody that's finally said, you know what, I'm cool with it. Here's the expectation. I'll check in to make sure, is everything okay? Do you need any more support? They end up doing a better job than you anyway. And now you're less stressed. And it's like, it's win, win, win. So I hope people hear this. Let go. My goodness, let go. Tell me about the book, brother. I know you wrote a book. I'm curious how and why you decided to, because that's no simple endeavor either. So was this another go get them? I'm not good enough, so I'm just going to write the book? Or was this, you know what? I want to share my story. I want to share so other people don't go through some of the challenges and pain that I've gone through.
Yeah, it's the second. I everything that I do, and so faith is hugely important to me. It just is. I believe that God is in control of things, and the more I try to be in control and try to pull that control away from Him, then it just falters. But I also believe that one of the reasons that I've been put on this earth is to make a difference in the world that's disproportionate to who I am as one individual. So how do I do that? How do I get that message out? And one of the ways is by writing. So several years ago, there's a lake really close to our home, and I was riding my bike across the dam that is by the lake, and I got this phrase in my head, we are the dam. And I thought, well, that's weird. What in the heck does that mean? So I kept on writing. I figured it was low blood sugar or something like that, goofy thoughts running into your head. And sometimes you get a thought and, oh, that's nice. But later it's how the thought builds on itself that is such a big deal. And over years of studying and researching and coming up with how this actually works, what I realize is it's completely true. We are the dam. All we are doing in our lives is controlling the flow of energy through our bodies. That's all we're doing. So we have an inflow which is the lake, an inflow and the reserves that we have. And then we have an outflow, which is the river that goes on the other side of the dam. And we're pretty good at the outflow part. We get crap done, right? We get our stuff done. We get our lists done. We knock it out. We try to be everything to everybody. We do all that. The problem is that outflow is draining us all of the time. And we're not very good at the inflow side of things. We're just not. We don't take care of ourselves. The equation that was universally true for me when I was burned out is that I was overcommitted and I wasn't taking care of myself every single time. The biggest level of overcommitment, I was building a new dental practice. I was buying the practice from my dad, who I used to work with. I was on 5 boards. I was training for 2 Ironman triathlons, and I was coaching both of my kids in soccer. That's nuts, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. All that stuff did not happen at one point. I just kept adding and adding and adding, like we talked about earlier. Guess what I was really terrible at during that season? I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't sleeping well. I was eating everything in sight, but I wasn't eating well. All of those different things. So the book, I wanted to make it as simple as possible. It's just called That Damn Analogy. So I wanted people to be able to pick up the book and say, what the heck is this all about? And so the goal is for us to learn, where are we at? So the first part of the book is just figuring out, where are we at? Because if we're not honest about ourselves and where we're at, then there's no hope for healing. We're just going to stay stuck exactly where we are. But once we're honest about where we're at, what are some strategies that we can do to assess our outflow? Which are the things that we're doing that are really necessary, that are necessary for our why, that are necessary for our people, and which of them are just outflow for the sake of outflow? And then how can we, on a big and small basis, figure out how to fill our reserves back up so we have something to give to our people?
Yeah, as you're talking, specifically during that building the practice, training for 2 triathlons, the 5 boards, the one thing that just hit me, because I say this all the time, every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else, right? Because often some people are people pleasers and I don't know how to say no. I don't want to be rude, so I'm just going to say yes. Well, guess what? When you say yes, you're saying no to your family. You're saying no to your health. You're saying no to your hobby, whatever you are saying no by saying yes. I'm curious, brother, because from the outside looking in, people are going, high achiever, guys crushing it, but yet you're not getting fulfilled. And you've mentioned the work. I'm curious some of the strategies. So as you're reading the book, and I hope everybody will go grab the book because I think it's absolutely imperative that they read it. But what are some of the strategies that you've found to go, you know what? This is what allows me to pour back into me. I call it me time. And I have my own philosophy. I'm curious to see what that looks like for you and maybe some suggestions you have in the book that say, all right, here's where you're at. This is how we're going to take care of ourselves. Are there specific practices you suggest, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we tell ourselves is that when we get a vacation, like that 1-week vacation, that is going to be our recovery time. And that's great. I love a 1-week vacation. I love a 2-week vacation. I would certainly love the possibility of a 3-week vacation. But guess what? Those are things that aren't going to happen very often, right? They're not. And so we need to figure out, how can we take care of ourselves on the day-to-day basis? So you're feeling shot. Exactly what you say. You're feeling shot. What do I even do? This is great, Eric. What are you talking about? How do I apply this? Okay, great. Do you refill well in a 1-week vacation? Fantastic. Do you have time for it? Nope, don't have time for it. Okay, let's scale it down. Okay, I have a weekend. All right, what can you do in the weekend? Can you go away for a couple days? Can you go to the lake? Can you do whatever it is that makes you happy for that weekend and fills you up? Oh man, I don't have a weekend. Okay, let's scale it back a little bit. I have 1 day. Okay, I got Sunday. That's my day. What can I do? Okay, What is it that you enjoy doing? Can you carve out 2 hours on Sunday? Can you do a day trip the whole day Sunday? Maybe go do some hiking or some swimming or just sitting in quiet, something like that. Don't have a day. So we just keep going back to smaller and smaller moments because we don't have a weekend or a week very often, but we have 5 minutes very often. And so what happens is part of the reason we're so burned out is we've lost control of the small spaces of our life, right? So it used to be when you were waiting in line or at the grocery store. Yeah, waiting in line at the grocery store. You could either look at the tabloids or you would just kind of look around. You kind of be in the moment and just kind of observing what's going on. Or if you were at a traffic light, okay, I'm just here at this traffic light. I might have some music on, but I'm kind of looking around, paying attention to the car in front of me for when they're ready to go. Now we have our phones, and doggone it, we can't go 2 minutes without our phones. What if we took those 2 minutes and instead we took 5 deep cleansing breaths? What if we just observed the world around us for a few minutes? What if we gave our brain that thing that it craves? Just a little bit of white space to be quiet. Those are the systems and habits that if we can start winning those small moments, our life is going to change. If we can say, instead of always having that phone ready to go, what if we just said no to it? And instead, you know what? The email's going to wait. The social media post is going to wait. All that stuff's going to wait. I'm going to let my brain catch up with my body a little bit and just give it a little quiet. So I'm a huge fan of trying to scale that recovery. So yes, take as much time as you need. But if you don't have much time, that's not an excuse to say, well, I just can't do anything. I'm just too shot. I don't have any time. My life is just crazy. I understand it. A lot of people, you run all day long. I bet you still find time for plenty of screen time in that amount of time. So it's just, how are we prioritizing it?
No, it's a great point. And it's interesting. As you said, vacation, I've said many times, I need a vacation from my vacation because my wife is type A, man. We go on vacation and it's a work. It's agenda, it's an itinerary. And it's like, for me, believe it or not, my daily is way more fulfilling for me because of what you just talked about. And when you're talking about, it's like, be where your feet are. Yeah. You need to be where your feet are, be truly present. And you brought up all the things that we have at our disposal, our cell phones and social media and all this. You need a break to say, just quiet. That's why I love driving so much, Eric. It's one of my favorite things to do is to just go on a road trip and get that windshield time, brother. Nothing is getting in my way. I may or may not listen to a podcast. I may or may not listen to a book. But at some point, I'm just going to turn it all off. And I don't know where we lost that ability, but it seems like it happened.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you because it's funny to have a guy that is doing triathlons, running marathons, mountain climbing. Again, you'd look at that and say, gosh, that guy is really healthy. He's taking care of himself. And yet, again, there was something just slightly missing. That heart palpitations thing, brother? No. That's certainly a cause for concern, right? Especially for somebody in such great shape. Are you still doing that to stay physically fit and active? And I guess my question is, have you just reframed why you're doing it? I'm curious.
Yeah. So when I was on the top of that mountain on Mount Princeton, I was 2 days away from the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. So that's 100 miles all above 9,000 feet. So I had this huge bike race coming up. And that was the moment that I was cured of endurance racing. And I said, I don't need this anymore because the training is not worth the finish line. For me, the training was not worth the finish line. I wanted to be in shape, but I was lying to myself. I was not in as good of shape as I thought I was. There's marathoners and triathlon guys who drop dead every single day because of they have so much stress in their lives, pre-existing conditions, all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, I decided I didn't need that anymore. And then I was in this really weird place. Like, I like to work out, I like to exercise, and I just don't have a lot of purpose for why I'm doing it. So I totally changed things up. I decided my favorite discipline was biking. So I started doing a lot more biking. I started doing some yoga, started doing some mindfulness stuff. And one thing that really made the biggest difference in the world is I started, and I know some people are going to be super jealous of this, but I live 2 miles away from my work, just 2 miles. And my town is fairly small. So I walk or ride my bike to work almost every day. And I tell you what, it's about a 30-minute walk to work. And I do it no matter what the temperature is. Sometimes if it's raining hard, I won't do it. But I have walked in minus 30 wind chill. There's no cold days, only bad gear. So that has made such a difference for me. So just movement outside and knowing that it doesn't always have to be these red line workouts. It just has to be intentionally moving. So I don't do all that stuff anymore. I don't miss it. I really don't. If the finish line was this magical place, I would probably feel different about it. But like I said, it just didn't justify that Leadville race when I crossed the finish line and I got a belt buckle for it. That was the award. That did not justify the 10 to 12 hours of biking that I had done every single week for the last year.
You know, it's fascinating. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show. One of the PayPal founders, he would literally walk 10 miles to work every single day. And it would take him, I think, almost 2 hours. But to your point, he was doing two things. He was getting outside, which often most of us don't do enough of that. He was creating things in his mind. He said if there was a problem by the start of the walk, it was certainly achieved by the end of it. He was getting his exercise. And again, this is something that isn't talked about enough. If you want to really get your creative juices going, just get outside and walk. And I can't explain it. I've literally read about it and I still don't fully understand. There's something about being outside, something about lowering your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and really just being in the moment. I think it's really, really important what you said. And I hope people hear it because, again, 2 miles from work. Oh, that, like you said, people are jealous. Absolutely not. Because I used to live less than that for my work and didn't decompress at all. So it was work, home, kids in my arms. And that led to my wife and I literally being separated for a year. So I think what you just said is so important. Like, you have that decompress time before you get to the office. You have that decompress by the time you get home. Oh, and by the way, benefit, I also got my exercise in for the day. That's amazing, brother. I just, what made you decide? You just said, you know what? Why not? It's not far. Let's get out and get it done.
Yeah, we moved. So I was a little farther away than that, but we moved, and I just thought, you know what? I need to start trying this. I know that I need some white space for my brain. I just know it. So I'll do any number of things while I'm walking. Usually it's quiet, but a lot of times I practice gratitude. There's some times where I will try to exhaust my gratitude. And it's a practice that I like to encourage people to do. So think about every single possible thing that you can be grateful for until you can't think of anything else. Because the cool thing about gratitude is worry, fear, stress, anxiety, none of those can exist in the same space as gratitude. So I'm outside and moving, and we have this supplement, this multi-billion-dollar supplement industry that's trying to come up with a pill that is better than 30 minutes of movement outside. Guess what? They're not going to get there. I know it. They're not going to get there. So it doesn't have to be, I used to think it had to be running or biking, red line, hardcore. No, just move. Just get out and move and create some space for your brain. Sometimes I pray. Sometimes I'll put my AirPods in and catch up on a phone call with a friend on the way home. Sometimes I'll listen to music. My son likes to create walking playlists for me. So he'll just show me the music he's with. And if I'm, some days my brain is just, and I just need some music so I don't have to think at all. So I'll do that. But it has been literally life-changing. I have had one minor cold a year for the last 3 years, and that's it. Like, my health is through the roof.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Again, you got rid of some of these hormones that's biology at play, and like you said, the supplement industry catching up with sun, outside, energy, quiet time. I hope everyone is listening to this because literally Eric is giving you permission to say, give yourself some time, give yourself some space. One of the things we also talked about, Eric, off air, I think you're down to practicing 3 times a week. Now, that could be a scary proposition for some because, man, if I'm not grinding, brother, I'm not making my money. I got to be there 4 or 5. Shoot, we're going to open up 6 days a week and make sure that we're squeezing everything out of this thing. How has that gone for you? Talk to me a little bit about how you made that transition from whatever I don't know what you traditionally did,
Yep.
but 3 days a week sounds pretty darn good. It feels like, yeah, man, when you're in there, you're probably giving it your all, but when you're also away, you're also making sure to take care of you. Paint the picture for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So burnout almost led me to sell the practice. So it got really close, actually. So I was going to sell it to one of my associates post COVID when we came back. I was sick of the churn. I was sick of the stress. I was sick of walking in there and knowing that I was going to be redlined until I left at the end of the day. My body was weak. It was weary. It was tired. It was ready to be done. So I talked to my associate and said, "Hey, are you interested in buying the practice? I think I'm going to walk away." And he said, "Yeah, I'm interested in that." So our practice broker was going to come and work out the details with him. And about a month before that, on a Monday morning, he was in a extremely serious car accident on his way to work. And so the wool was pulled back from my eyes. I realized that he was not the right person to sell the practice to. But then all of a sudden, he was also out of commission and couldn't practice dentistry for quite a while. And so a 3-doc practice became a 2-doc practice. And I freaking hate it when we find out this new level of capacity when we already thought that we were way beyond our capacity. So I had to get through that, and I had to decide what I wanted my life to look like. I was trying to go around burnout. I was trying to go around it. Like, I'm just going to go around it. I'm going to sell my practice. I'm going to walk away. I would not have been any better. It would have been the biggest mistake that I would have made. It just would not have been right because I didn't have anything to fall back on. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I just know I needed to escape. So after a few months of just survival mode, we were so dang busy. It was unbelievable. I got in touch with another dentist who was interested in joining me as a partner. And so I said, this is great because I had other dentists in my practice, but I had been alone as the leader. And so I was having to make all the decisions, and that just puts miles on you, making decisions by yourself every freaking day. So he said, here's the thing. If I'm going to join your practice, I'm joining 50-50 from day one. And I want half the practice and I want half the building because I'm going to burn my ships from where I'm at and I'm coming all in. And our practice broker said, no way, you cannot do that. You can't start a marriage without the courtship right away. You can't do that. You need some time. I said, look, Matt, I'm gone. I was going to sell the practice and walk away. This doesn't work out. We've talked about it. I'm going to sell it to him and walk away. But I told him one part of this deal is that I am going to start seeing patients 3 days a week so that I can work on my coaching and speaking and writing on the other days. He said, that sounds amazing. So we're just over 2 years out from that. And it's amazing. I mean, my production is down. I was working 4 or 4.5 days a week, and my production is down from 4 days a week, but it's not down 25%. It's probably down about 10 or 15%. So I am able to be super productive when I'm in the office on those 3 days. And I tell you what, when I walk home Wednesday at the end of the day, oh man, I feel like $1 million. I'm so excited because I get to start the second half of my week.
You know, I've done a bunch of business deals through my time. And one of the things, I understand why Matt, I think, is who you referred to. Matt saying, whoa, Whoa, 50-50. Come on, brother. Like, this is crazy. But, I love how candid you both were in the negotiation. I'm going to be 50-50. This is like, look, this is my, it's a non-negotiable. Like, either Eric, you take this deal or it's not going to work out. And you were very clear with your non-negotiables. I'm going to work 3 days a week because I have other things that are really fulfilling me. So often in these negotiations, I this is a mistake that people make. They go along to get along, and then they're like, wait a minute, that's not going to work. So if you had gone 70-30 and your partner is not making what he needed to make, or he did burn the bridges, I love the way that actually went down, because it sounds like the lawyers were put to the side. We're going to talk face to face. Here's the negotiation. Here we go. And it worked out, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time having conversations about this. This was really heartfelt, and there was blood, sweat, and tears through all of this, just brutal honesty. And I think that's why we work so well together, because we were so honest with each other at the beginning.
Yeah, anybody that's ever thinking of taking on a partner, I'm glad you said that, is the one rule I have is you have to trust them implicitly. And you're not going to get there unless you spend that time having these probably at times brutal conversations, some of them that are not always pleasant, but look how well it's worked out. Talk to me about the elite success coach thing that you have going, man. So it sounds like the other couple days you're helping coach others on this.
Yeah, so two other parts to it. Coaching is part of it. So I work with other high achievers, not just in the dental world, but anybody who's feeling stuck. I like to work with people who have, they've done really well for themselves. They've found some success. They're just not sure if it's the right success or the right path that they're supposed to be on. And I love to come alongside them and share some of the wisdom that I've learned and help them develop a plan so that they can create a life that they don't want to wake up from. That's one of the things. I kept hoping that my life was going to be different when I woke up the next day, and it wasn't. So I love helping people with that. The other thing that I love doing is facilitating workshops. So I do keynote speeches and facilitate workshops. So I'll do a 2.5 to 3 hour workshop on the dam analogy, where we all get together. And I love doing this with teams, all people who work together, because it creates a common language for people to communicate about where they're at. And then also we talk about the refueling techniques and how do you scale that. And everybody's throwing out of ideas about the things they do. And, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea. And we all work together. We take a look at commitments that we're on, which of those commitments need to stay and which ones need to go. And people leave with hope. That's my goal with everything that I do, that after people have interacted with me, that they would leave with hope and the belief that good days are ahead. And if I've accomplished those two things, then at the end of my life, I'm going to feel really good about what I've accomplished.
Yeah, truly you're serving in a way that, servant leadership, to say, look, I don't want you to get here. I love that. Brother, is there anything I didn't know enough to ask you that you want to make sure to get across as we start to wrap up? I can't believe how fast it's flown by. Yeah, but anything I didn't know enough to ask you that you want to make sure to get across to the audience?
Yeah, so I know a ton of people are struggling with burnout, struggling with just feeling gray in their lives. I created a challenge on my website, and challenge probably isn't even the right word. It's just but it's called the 5-day Knockback Burnout Challenge. And so if you're feeling like burnout might be starting to take a hold of you, sign up for this challenge. All it is it's a series of 5 emails. It goes through a couple different things, a few strategies for how to break the hold of burnout. And that's my free gift to everyone. I want people to take a look at that, because some of it just starts with raising our hand and saying, you know what, I think I'm a little bit burned out. Because when we keep it in the dark, you know this, the things that we keep in the dark have power over us. When we're on an island and everything we hold so close to our chest, all that stuff has power over us. But when we release it, when we talk about it to people that we can trust, there's so much healing in that, so much opportunity for growth once we do that. So that's a great way for us to stay in touch. And that's just available. If you go to my website, ericrecker.com, that'll pop up. And yeah, I'd love to stay in touch.
Brother, you actually helped me with one or the other. How do they find you? So go to ericrecker.com, go check it out. Brother, thank you for coming on, man. It's amazing when people are able to be so vulnerable and say, look, this is where I was and I wasn't truly happy. I I deserve happiness. I found happiness and you can too. I absolutely loved it. Thanks for coming on, brother. It was amazing.
I tell you what, my friend, this is one of the best interviews I can ever remember doing. I'm so excited to get this out into the world. And I just have this feeling that people's lives are going to be changed and some hope is going to rise. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you for having me.
Truly my pleasure. And I agree with you. Look, if you're listening to this and you felt burnout, which is everyone at some point, I want you to share this. I don't care if they're, like Eric said earlier, whether you're in the dental space or you're not. People feel burnt out at some point. I don't care if you're a housewife or a career, full career or a student. Everyone feels it at some point. Share this episode. Go grab the book and make sure that you're addressing these issues because mental health is so important. And I really, really mean this. Please share this out. Until next time, remember your mindset matters. I appreciate you all. We'll talk soon.